What dream are you giving up on because you are going to be required to be a different version of yourself? A version of yourself that you are afraid you don't know how to be. Today, when we're talking about fear, I am not talking about public speaking, which is actually, I think, one of the number one fears. People fear speaking in public more than they fear dying. Isn't that interesting? I'm not talking about the fear of having that difficult conversation that you've been putting off. I'm not talking about fear of moving to a new city or a new country. I'm not talking about fear of living alone. I'm not talking about fear of crowds. I'm not talking about fear of certain animals. I'm talking about the fear of becoming someone different. And I think that that is such a crippling thing, and we don't talk about it enough. The number one thing that's keeping people from achieving their goals is not having the resources. It's not money. It's not proximity to the people who can help them. It's actually fear. It's the fear of changing. It's the fear of showing up differently. It's the fear of no longer being the person who you have always been. And I shared a video earlier, shorter video, and it's a quote from James Clear. He talks about how our habits, the repetitive habits, cast a vote for the person who we want to become. So, what happens when you hold on to the old version of you, when you hold on to the things that you have already done? Are you doing that? This is what we really have to ask ourselves. Am I doing this because this is what works for me? Am I doing this because this is all I know? Or am I doing this because I am afraid to be someone else? You may have created a vision board. You may have set a list of things that you want to do in 2024. And here you are in November or whatever time you're watching this, and you have not yet accomplished those things. And you have to ask yourself, why? It's such an important question. You will hear me say very often that a woman needs three types of daily appointments: one with God, one with herself, and then her appointments with others. This is an opportunity for you to have one of those appointments with yourself as you're listening to what I'm saying. Have a quick thought with yourself. Have a quick session with yourself. Pause this video if you have to. Write this down. Get your journal and ask yourself the things that I have not accomplished. Why haven't I done those things? Is it because I didn't have the resources, or is it because I was afraid of the transition? I was afraid of the transformation required for me to do this thing. And it could be such simple things. Sometimes it's some place that you have to declutter in your home. It could be weight that you want to lose. It could be going back to school. It could be changes that you need to make in a relationship. It could be something to do with your career. It could be a career change. It could be that you want a promotion. You're afraid of being rejected. We're often afraid of so many abstract things. Fear is a wonderful thing. Fear is a gift. Fear is what will tell you there's a dog chasing you. You need to run. But the crazy thing is, your body responds the same way to an animal attacking you, to you feeling like you're in danger because you might be in danger of a person who may cause you actual bodily harm. Your body doesn't know the difference between that and you being afraid of speaking in front of a crowd. Your body has no idea of a bear chasing you or you being afraid to talk to your boss, the same reaction happens because we know what that reaction feels like, because that reaction is so uncomfortable and so jarring and puts us in a place where we feel we have to now run for our lives. We trust the feeling more than we trust the facts of what created the feeling. You have to push back when you feel afraid. You have to push back. And I actually looked up the dictionary definition of fear, and it gives two definitions. Of course, one is a noun and one is a verb, because you can feel fear and then you can also fear something. So, first definition, which is a noun, and it says it's an unpleasant emotion caused by the threat of danger, pain, or harm. Fear is an emotion. It's a feeling. It is not a fact. It is a feeling. So, what does that tell you? That you can't trust it as an absolute. Just because you feel a certain way doesn't mean that it's reality, doesn't mean that that fear is based in something real. Unless you see a threat, an actual threat to bodily harm in front of you, then you can challenge that fear. And even if you do see an actual threat of bodily harm in front of you, you can challenge that fear too. I want us to not feel helpless by fear. Use the fear that you feel as information. Don't use it as fuel. I have heard people say, feel the fear and do it anyway. That's not always wise. Sometimes that fear is telling you that maybe you shouldn't act right now. Sometimes that fear is informing you that the strategy that you may think of in the moment is not the best. Take a minute to think. Take a minute to listen to what the fear is telling you. I know that there are situations where you're going to have to act quickly. Let's take public speaking for an example. Let's say you're in a business meeting and you're called on to speak, and then you suddenly feel afraid and you start to clam up. In that moment, you're going to have to talk quickly or you're going to be embarrassed. That's another fear of being embarrassed. These are things that actually hold us back in life. Fear of confrontation. Because you have a fear of confrontation, you're not having the conversations that you need to have in order to bring clarity and bring peace to your life. Fear is a very real enemy. Let's look at fear as a verb. This is to be afraid of someone or something as likely to be dangerous, painful, or harmful. So here we see danger, pain, or harm. Those are identifying factors that you can use to determine what you are dealing with and to determine whether or not this fear is founded in facts and whether or not this fear is something that you can easily overcome. So the first thing is to ask, is this dangerous? You in a business meeting, speaking up in a business meeting is not dangerous. You speaking up in a business meeting is not harmful, at least to your person. You speaking up in a business meeting may cause you some pain. Let's be honest, it may cause you some pain, depending on what you have to say, depending on how it's received. But this is where your personal vision comes in. You have to decide who you want to be. And for most of us, you want to be a person who is bold. You want to be a person who is able to state your opinion, to state your ideas, to state your dreams, to state your goals, and do it in a way where you are clear and you are confident. Your fear, if you have a fear of public speaking, examine that fear. What is it? Are you afraid that you're going to be laughed at? Are you afraid that you are not qualified? What exactly is it that you are afraid of? Because if you don't tackle it, if you don't look at it head on, what happens is you take that feeling as a fact, and that feeling now cripples you. It's like hands that come in and just squeeze the life out of whatever that dream or that goal or that task is that you are trying to accomplish. Fear suffocates. It is not helpful. It does not help you in any way to be fearful. The only way that fear will help you is in a situation where it's life and death, and it's actually like an alarm system for your body telling you, get out of here, get out of here. You are in danger. But again, remember, your brain, your body, the different triggers and the different feelings that you get. Your throat feels like it's closing up. Your chest feels like it's caving in on you. Your heart starts racing. Your palms are sweaty. It's the same feeling that you get when you're in danger, but you cannot trust that feeling without analyzing it. You cannot trust that feeling because when you're in a boardroom, nobody's trying to chase you. Nobody's trying to cause you bodily harm in the boardroom when you're called on to ask a question or give your opinion. If there's a hard conversation that you need to have with a loved one, with a friend, nobody's causing you bodily harm in that situation. I pray and hope. For most of us, this is not the case. So ask yourself about your fears. Where is this fear coming from? We often think of fear as a feeling, but I have a scripture that I want to share with you. And this might be familiar with you if you are a Bible reading person. 2 Timothy chapter 1 and 17, it talks about fear and says that God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and of a sound mind. Did you notice that it talks about a spirit of fear? It doesn't talk about a feeling of fear. It talks about a spirit. And in these first 10 days of November, we're talking about spirituality. So that feeling that you get, that crippling, stifling, suffocating feeling that you get that is causing you to not do the things that you need to do to achieve the goals that you want to achieve, that is a spirit. That is a spirit that needs to be confronted. That is a spirit that needs to be cast out. That is a spirit that has no place in your life if you're going to achieve the things that God is calling you to achieve and to be completely who He is calling you to be. The Bible also says that perfect love casts out fear. And I love that here it says God gives us a spirit of power, of love, and of a sound mind. Power to overcome that fear and act in faith. Love, because that's the greatest creative force, and that's the source of our faith. And a sound mind, because a stable mindset is most aligned with the mind of God, who is the object of our faith. And I'm not going to be a cheesy Christian and give you that Bible rhetoric. Faith casts out fear. And it does. It does. And it sounds cute and it sounds cliche, but it isn't easy. I'm not going to make you think that it's easy. It's not, but it's so worth it. It is so worth it. Because here's the thing, when Eve in the garden was confronted by the serpent, what is the first thing that she did? She said that, well, God said that we can't eat from this tree. And the serpent's like, oh, well, did God really say that? And she began to question. She began to question. He put holes in her faith. And that's what the enemy does. He puts holes in your faith. So you don't think that God has your back. You don't think that God has your back. You now have to start looking out for yourself. And when you start looking out for yourself, you will get fearful. You have to believe that God has your back. You have to believe that his thoughts and his plans for you are better than your thoughts and your plans for yourself. Does this mean that you don't set goals? Does this mean that you don't have a vision? No. Does this mean that you are always going to know everything that's coming up? Does this mean that there won't be blind spots? Does this mean that there won't be moments where you're like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Or what am I going to do? No, those moments will happen. But in those moments, you have to remind yourself of who you are. You have to remind yourself of whose you are. You have to remind yourself that God has not given you a spirit of fear, but he has given you power. You have his love and you have a sound mind. A sound mind is a mind that is clear. A sound mind is a mind that is made up. A sound mind is a mind that is set to achieve the goals that you have set before you. You have to have a vision in front of you. And if you have no vision, I encourage you to click the links in the description. There are so many links. I have a journal. I have guided journals that you can download. There are prompts. There's so many different ways that we can work together. If you want to take it a step further and have an illumination call with me, you can set up a 20-minute one-on-one call. It is a free call. And I'd love to sit with you and talk about where you are in life and look at some of the things that you are facing, some of the fears that you are having, and how we can go about eliminating those fears because they can be eliminated. 90% of what we are afraid of doesn't even exist. Most of the scenarios that we create in our heads, things that we are afraid are going to happen or are not going to happen, it doesn't go that way most of the time. But if you trust your feelings, if you trust the fear more than you trust the vision, then you're always going to feel like you are leaving your life on the table. You're always going to feel like you're left out. You're always going to feel like this is not enough. And I don't know how to live my best life. And I don't know how to move forward. And I feel stuck and I don't know what to do. If that is you, I want to encourage you. Yes, feel the fear because what I don't want you to do is ignore it. Sometimes we try to ignore the fear and we end up walking into situations where we don't feel empowered to move on because that fear has to be confronted. If it's not confronted, it's going to have power over you. And you have to have the power over the fear. You absolutely can do it. So think about what I said today. Feel the fear, identify the fear, and look for the facts. Look for the facts. Am I in danger? Am I going to be hurt? What pain am I going to feel? And if that pain is psychological, if that pain is mental, if that pain is emotional, I'm not saying that those fears and those feelings may not be valid to you mentally, emotionally, even spiritually. I'm not saying that those fears may not be your actual feelings, but what I am saying is if your life is not in danger, you have to engage your mind. You have to engage your mindset and put yourself in a place where you realize and you recognize, I am not going to die if I stand up and talk in front of people. It's not going to kill me to have a conversation with this person. Will it be uncomfortable? Yes. Will I feel stretched? Yes. Will I feel challenged? Yes. Could I possibly be embarrassed? Yes. But what are you going to do instead? Just be afraid? I don't think that's the life that you want to live. So face those fears. Feel the fear, face the fear, and overcome it. You absolutely can. I hope this helps. Blessings on your journey. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.